Books and films allow us to step into the shoes of a different person and hear their story. Sometimes we're shocked or confused about certain directions a story takes, but rarely are we ever angry. You never see someone rage quit out of an AMC. Yeah, the same can't be said for video games.
My God, what the stupid ass game! What am I playing? Huh? Oh my God, I'm done! Oh God! Fuck! Oh my God! Ah!
Anyway.
For me, video games are a place where I can go to escape. They allow me to explore a new world, meet new people, and generally just run around. If a game makes me upset or angry, I typically just find another game. After all, that's what I'm trying to avoid. And I am proud to say that I have never rage quitted a game before the making of this video. Now, one of my favorite game series of all time is Kingdom Hearts.
My guess is no one's ever loved you before.
For me, this is a game series that has a nice balance of storytelling and challenge. I don't know if I would call the game difficult, but there are moments where skill is required. Of the entire series, however, I personally enjoyed the third installment, Kingdom Hearts 2. Now, fans of the series know the games are confusing, we just accept it, we recommend that you do too. I know I just said the third installment is Kingdom Hearts 2, but that's because there was a weird Game Boy and DS game right in the middle. Don't even get me started on the entire Kingdom Hearts 3 dilemma.
What does any of this mean?
Now, in Kingdom Hearts 2, there's a secret boss after you complete the game called the Lingering Will. I figured I might as well try to beat the boss. I wasn't fully leveled up, but I thought I'd see how the fight started at least. The only lingering will I see around here is my will to live. What is this? He's got a Keyblade, but why can he pull moves Indiana Jones would sell his soul to do? No matter, I'll try the fight again. Maybe it was me. Maybe I wasn't paying attention. Now, it took me a while, about 2 days, but eventually I got to the second phase of the fight.
Oh shit. Whoa. Oh, what the hell? See, I need to get used to that. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is, dude.
I decided I had enough for that day. Now, I think that was the closest I ever got to rage quitting a game before. I felt angry, but I also knew that I was very underleveled, so in part it was my fault. So the next day I leveled up to the max level, got the strongest weapon, and went back to the fight. This fight took me a week to beat. I looked up tutorials, watched someone else beat the game frame by frame, and did everything that I could to ensure that I would beat him next time. Enter, die, enter, die, enter, die. I tried again and again until finally.
Yes! Come on! Yes! Bro! Come on! Yes! Come on! Ah! Yeah! Oh! I'm being evicted today! Oh my god!
I had done it. I had defeated the hardest boss in the game, I was ready for my reward. What do I get? You get a crown and more HP. Okay. What was more valuable to me, however, was that I learned about rage in video games. While I did think about quitting the game and giving up on that boss entirely, I had come too far to do that. I knew that there were ways to master my skills and defeat this boss. And that's the beauty of video games. They push you to be better. It's similar to the elements of a good teacher. They challenge you in meaningful ways so that by the end, you are ready for the future. This is the best way in which rage should be included within a video game. However, not every video game has a good teacher for Rage 101. Take, for example, Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight is one of, if not the most rage-inducing game that I have ever played, and that is both a good and a bad thing. Hollow Knight drew me in with how it looked, which is typically not how I go about picking a game to play, but this one was different. It looked cute and charming, almost like an old Disney film, but it also looked fun to run around in. How naive I was. In the tutorial alone, I must have died 5 or 10 times. But I took this in a similar approach to the Lingering Will boss and viewed this as simply a learning stage of the game. Of course I'm not good at this game yet, I've only just begun. They're being hard on me right now to ease me into this new world. Eventually I made it to Dirtmouth, the game's central hub, and entered the first real area of the game. As I'm getting more used to the controls, I come across this guy, the False Knight. Again, the pattern was clear on what to do, and while I did die a few times, I was eventually able to defeat him. I know, hold your applause. But the enemies only got more and more difficult, and not just the bosses, I mean every single thing I came across wanted my blood, including my own soul when I died! This is what I mean by Hollow Knight being a poor teacher for Rage. In this teacher's class of Rage 101, the teacher sits you down on the first day of class, gives you a baseline test that's actually more like a midterm, and the next test you take is slightly easier, but you take your time with it and you pass. And then, after a few more classes, the teacher just begins throwing everything they have at you. You want to see the final for this class? I returned to this game in the hopes that I would be able to better understand it and hopefully get farther than I had in the past. What I realized was that the game just had a bad rage teacher for me. For others, this rage teacher may be their absolute favorite of all time. But for me, the teacher was not coming across clearly. Now, I got to this boss and simply could not take it anymore. I died and I died and died with no clues or hopes on figuring out how to break it. I had my friends help me, but the result was always the same. And for the first time in my life when making this video, I rage quitted. So then that raises the question, how do you teach rage in a video game? What is my best rage teacher? Well, firstly, I think we should all understand that rage is in every video game, whether it's designed to be or not. Take for instance Kirby and the Forgotten World. Now in this game there's a level where you're driving and have to complete the course in under a certain time limit. But to do that, you have to make it through some serious jumps. It took me a while to make this specific jump that you're seeing right now, but eventually I made it. The level didn't necessarily make me rage to the level we typically talk about when thinking of rage, but it did make me upset a couple times when I would get so close, only to mess it up at the end. Another thing we have to understand is that rage isn't necessarily a bad thing. Thinking back to the Lingering Will boss I talked about, sure, I was angry that it took so long to beat him, but the euphoria that I felt after beating him was incredible. I remember putting down the controller because my hands were still shaking. To finally have defeated this boss was incredible. But then why did I feel great about beating this boss and not in any of the bosses within Hollow Knight? A big part of that is because of the way in which the rage was presented. Now here's a graph of the difficulty between the games we've been talking about. As you can see, there's a steady incline in difficulty in Kingdom Hearts 2. The further you progress throughout the game, the more difficult it becomes. The game trains you in the new mechanics slowly and ensures that you know how to use them. By the end of the game, While still difficult, it is beatable because you know the tactics to do them. Hollow Knight starts at the middle of the difficulty graph and just skyrockets. The idea in this game is that in order to beat it, you need to memorize the boss's fight patterns, not leveling up or getting other items. So in order to teach Rage, the player must have enough time to learn the mechanics of the game. This doesn't mean the game has to hold your hand throughout the entire journey, but it should explain how to use the tools at your disposal. The player should understand how to use everything they have before they enter the world. The difficulty levels should also make sense. Starting your game near an almost impossible difficulty level is one of the best ways to get rid of many of your players. Now I know what you're thinking. Oh, but Jared, you're just upset because you're bad at the game. Then allow me to show you a game that makes me rage, but I think it does a good job at teaching Rage. And I'm sure you already know the game. Elden Ring and the rest of the Dark Souls franchise is very well known for being a difficult game. It's also where many of the best Rage Quit videos come from. I got the game, and yes, it's hard, but it teaches Rage in a way that makes sense. When the game opens, you find yourself in this cave going through the tutorial. Eventually, you come up to one of the common enemies of the game, and of course, because I'm playing the game, I die. Twice, but on my third attempt, I won and I defeated the enemy. The game then brings you into the world and instructs you to go and explore. Now, due to the difficulty of the game, I died a lot. Eventually, I arrived at the first boss, which is also known as one of the more difficult bosses in the game. However, unlike Hollow Knight, Elden Ring has already taught you how to do certain moves and the environment around you to your advantage. You can do the classic run up and attack with your sword, or you can use summons, or you can use magic spells. There's many different ways you can defeat them, but you will still die during your first several attempts. This part of the game was when I felt differently about Rage. I had always viewed Rage as something to avoid in video games and in life in general, but now I understand. Rage can be transformed and utilized as a tool for our advantage. When I died, I was angry, but I also understood where I messed up and how I could improve upon that. Eventually, I did beat the boss, and I felt more prepared than ever to keep going. This is exactly how Rage should be taught in a video game. Slow at the beginning, pushing you to your limit, and then knowing you can overcome it. Rage is an element in video games that can't be avoided. Avoiding Rage simply makes for a boring game. However, creating a game that only focuses on Rage makes for a game that loses many potential fans. Of course, this is all my own opinion. Some people do enjoy playing games with a focus point on Rage. I, alongside many others, do not enjoy playing these kinds of games, though I do understand how some people can. Finally overcoming an obstacle in any game feels incredible. The same can be said about real life. We're put in situations where it may feel impossible to overcome whatever we're facing, whether it be passing a test or making a product for a job. We get upset and maybe even angry because of it, but rather than have that rage take over our mind, we have to learn how to control it and use it as a tool. Once we do that, we're able to do the impossible and overcome any obstacle that we face.